Well, it's about time this stuff starts coming out. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism. Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. here on News Talk 840 KXNT. At What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. So today is 9 years since the FBI opened its fraudulent Crossfire Hurricane investigation. The only pretext was a so-called tip from an Australian diplomat. And all he did was relay information that apparently a Trump volunteer had repeated the same gossip that the media had been circulating for months. And what was this? The gossip was a claim that Russia might have Hillary Clinton's missing emails. And it was a fraud from the beginning. And the consequences of it were quite grave. It wrecked lives. It went beyond just affecting Trump and the Trump presidency, interfering with our duly elected administration, crashing the Trump agenda in that first term from 2017 to 2021. It dragged innocent families through hell. People got caught up in this. And it criminalized any efforts at diplomacy with Russia. In many ways, it could be argued that it became the proximate cause of the Ukraine war. So this mess now is firmly in the spotlight today because Grassley has come in and released the Durham file, in particular the Durham Annex. Now, John Durham was the special prosecutor appointed by William Barr back in 2019 in May. And he investigated the Crossfire Hurricane operation. But the problem is much of his report relied on classified material evidence that remained classified until now. I think it's pretty straightforward why the Biden administration would not declassify it. So we're going to go through it here. But the big picture in all of this is this. The left, the globalists, they are fighting tooth and nail to maintain their power. They pretend to be for democracy. They pretend to care about the will of the people. But in everything that they do, it's the exact opposite. These people, they have no interest in an actual open and free election, because what Crossfire Hurricane was from go was an effort to discredit Trump, to tar and feather him in the public domain, and to begin to lay a foundation for removing him from office should he be elected. And by the way, when it comes to people expressing their opinions, right, freely expressing themselves, First Amendment free speech here in the U.S., general concepts of free speech around the world, the left is quick to prevent us from speaking our minds. I'm telling you, all of it is coming to a head right now. It's a beautiful thing to see. So let's pick this apart because, well, you got to get Grassley, who is the chairman there, releasing this today. Here's his statement on it. And Grassley is, prone to understating things. He's not a blowhard. So here's what he said in his statement. Based on the Durham Annex, the Obama FBI failed to adequately review and investigate intelligence reports showing the Clinton campaign may have been ginning up the fake Trump-Russia narrative for Clinton's political gain. And he cites the Steele dossier, which we are all familiar with. And here's the critical part. Quote, history will show that the Obama and Biden administration's law enforcement and intelligence agencies were weaponized against President Trump. This political weaponization has caused critical damage to our institutions and is one of the biggest political scandals and cover-ups in American history. Well, I tell you, I've started going through this. Here's what's in the annex, because I'm telling you, this is a big-time understatement. There are 5 critical revelations. The first one is that Clinton allegedly approved a plan to discredit Trump by linking him to the Russian hacking, right? So that was done in the get-go. The FBI was formally told about this plan via an intel referral. That was back in September of 2016, approximately a month before the election. The referral was then sent to Comey and Strzok, the agent who was conspiring with Lisa Page in those text messages. The two were having an affair. And Strzok described this to Ms. Page as an insurance policy. Meaning, what if Trump becomes president? Oh, don't worry, Lisa, we have a plan. These 2 actors, Comey and Strzok, were both very central to Crossfire Hurricane. And then finally, well, one more thing here, the FBI never acted on the referral. There's no inquiry, no analysis, no nothing. And the referral was authentic and it was received. And so here's what happened from this, right? When you look at these records that were declassified, I mean, there are emails from operatives. For example, this Leonard Bernardo guy. By the way, Mr. Bernardo, excuse me, that's how I pronounce it. Bernardo, this was back in July of 2016, in the midst of the contentious election. And he writes a series of emails, and they're all, by the way, in this annex, they've been released. And it literally lays out this entire Russia collusion hoax. And this is a guy working inside the Clinton campaign who is putting together, he's admitting, by the way, he admits that the DNC server that was hacked was not hacked by the Russians, but that they could come up with a narrative where the Russians are responsible. He writes in these emails, hey, this would be great for us. It would be an important story. It would be a first time that we know of that a state deliberately uses the infiltration and publication of data to interfere in the U.S. election. He writes, politicization is on the table. And he says it would be a long-term affair to demonize Putin and Trump, and that it would be good for a post-convention bounce. And the FBI just went along with it. Comey went along with it. And when Trump was elected and when Trump was sworn in, the entire time, Comey was treating him like a suspect. Not because Trump had done anything wrong, because he had dared to run against the political establishment. He dared to come from the outside. He dared to represent you and I in Washington. And whether Comey is a registered Republican or a registered weasel doesn't really matter to me. It's irrelevant. He's a swamp creature. And here, the swamp, Republican and Democrat, united in its fight and opposition of Trump. And they played dirty and they played illegal. They broke all sorts of laws. I got to roll my sleeves up on this, but folks, it's bad, and there are, I believe, a number of prosecutions that will come from this. By the way, have you seen Trump's tweets the last several days? He keeps tweeting stuff about Obama getting arrested, Obama going to prison, things like this. And I have a lot of friends who are reaching out. They're sending it to me, right? And they're saying, Sam, what is this all about? He needs to not do this stuff. Talk to Trump. Tell him not to do it. I'll tell you what my response was when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, the What's Right Show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends. So Trump is, as I mentioned before the break, sending out tweets, posts on Truth Social that are later sent out on X, on Twitter. So his social media post is my point. Sending out these messages that describe in various ways things that might supposedly happen to Barack Obama. Getting arrested, getting tried, getting convicted, treason, these kind of things. And people are getting the vapors over this. I mean, I'm telling you, they're just getting all worked up. What is Trump doing? And people, obviously, even folks that are allies of the president are a little bit bewildered by this. Let's wait to build a case, Mr. President. Now, when people text me this, my response, so I'll tell you what it is. My response is, I know what he's doing. Trump is testing public reaction. At the same time, he is starting a conversation about it for the eventuality that were Obama to get arrested, it wouldn't come as a shock and a surprise, and there would already be a baked-in reaction into the news cycle. This is what Trump does. He did it the other day with Diddy. He said, "Oh, maybe pardon for P. Diddy." I don't think he's going to give a pardon but he's just floating. You see what he wants to see what the reaction is. And the reaction wasn't good. Megyn Kelly got up there and said, no, don't do that. I agree, by the way, with Megyn Kelly. I don't think it'd be a good idea. But Trump does this. He had people float amnesty. Remember that? Amnesty for farm workers. What do you think about this? He'll throw things out, and then, based on the reaction, he maybe will adjust his path. So a lot. We're talking about the Crossfire Hurricane. 9 years since the Clinton campaign got together with the Obama people, the FBI, the CIA, and used our entire government to subvert democracy. And then the chutzpah of these people. The best part about it is, Robbie, that 4 years later, they were the ones running around accusing Trump of subverting democracy, accusing Trump. Remember, even before January 6th, how many times the left talked about Trump? If he loses, he's not going to leave. They were obsessed with this. And these are people were saying that who had full knowledge of the fact that everything that had been done to Trump was a complete and total fraud, that it was invented. And now we've got the smoking gun evidence. The reason it's coming out now is that it has finally been declassified. Why was it classified for as long as it was? Well, good question. Perhaps once Trump left the White House and Biden took over with Merrick Garland and all these usual suspects, they didn't want to declassify anything because it would have helped Trump. They wanted to proceed with a January 6th indictment over subverting democracy and all that stuff, right? And at the same time, and maintain still the pretense that Trump colluded with Russia, that Russia helped Trump get elected. The scandal of 2016, this is where I'm going with this, the scandal of 2016 continued for 8 years. It didn't stop really until now, until you could argue Trump was reelected in 2024. What I think is incredible, when you think about really the magnitude of all this stuff, what I think is incredible is that Trump was able to prevail in 2024 and win again. And the reason he could prevail, the reason that even a well-organized, I would say brilliantly executed smear campaign, it's more than a smear campaign, it's a fraud, a complete and total fraud hoax using our entire government. The only reason that Trump was able to win in spite of that enormous opposition is because we have freedom of speech, and because, I keep coming back to this, Elon Musk came in, bought Twitter, took it private, and said, no, we're not doing this censorship anymore. I'm not taking directions from the Biden Ministry of Truth. People can write what they want on Twitter, and the truth began coming out at a critical time in the campaign for Trump, for him to be able to, and for Americans to be able to express themselves, to be able to finally share ideas. And it isn't just a final nail or second to last nail in the coffin of mainstream media. It was the single greatest counterforce to this orchestrated political lynching of Trump and his supporters. There is zero coincidence, if you're following the news and you see that there's these countries like Australia and Great Britain who are coming up with draconian online censorship laws. We'll get a little bit more into this later in the program. There is, to me, in my view, no coincidence that these laws are being released in these countries at the same time that we have Trump coming back into power and revealing what was done to him by the government, by Obama, by Clinton, by Comey, by Brennan, by all of these presidents, heads of state, high-ranking politicians, intelligence community, grand poobahs, and directors of the FBI. These governments around the world are thinking, we do this too. I might be doing it right now. We're subverting democracy. We're fighting against the Trump-like populist parties that are on the verge of kicking us out of office in our respective countries. And instead of arguing who has the better ideas for leadership and thinking of ways of how these, I think defunct politicians, but regardless, the Democrats of Great Britain, Labor, and to some extent even the Conservative Party, and in Germany, the CDU, and all these just Democrat-like parties, globalist parties, George Soros affiliated parties. Instead of engaging with the opposition, with the Trump-like movements and saying, here's why our ideas are better, they can't do that. They know they can't win. So they are stacking the deck against the Trump-like candidates, just the way that Trump was opposed in our country. And on top of it, they've recognized how dangerous people sharing things freely on the internet is. And they want to identify you. They want to know who you are. They want your ID for you to post anything on X, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever. They want to know who you are, and these are the rules. It is it's even bigger than George Orwell. It is actually nothing, almost to the level of China's social credit system, what's coming up. And it's connected, in my view, it's connected with, literally, as Tulsi Gabbard goes, this is what's going on, we're going to release it, we've started to release it, we're building a case for the insurrectionist Democrats who don't care about democracy, who don't care about the rule of law, who literally felt they could do anything and that they would never be held to account. The impunity that under which they acted, just unbelievable to me. It should make decent Democrats furious with these revelations. So the question is, I mean, by the way, do you think Obama's going to do you think he's going to get arrested? And I don't know. I'll tell you my thoughts. I'll come back here. I have an interesting theory, by the way, on some of the stuff as it relates to where these prosecutions could take place. There's an interesting idea that I had about venue and how it could help. I got to run. But bottom of the hour here. Back in a moment. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone, reporting for duty. Welcome, friends, back to the program. The What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, is on. My email, sam@whatsrightshow.com, on X, @whatsrightsam. So do you remember that fateful meeting, the coincidental meeting, we just happened to run into each other on the tarmac of a busy airport, Bill Clinton and then Attorney General Loretta Lynch. This was in late June of 2016. Now, Loretta Lynch, remember Loretta Lynch was the FBI director after Holder. Holder was there for most of Obama's term. He then stepped down. Loretta Lynch became the new AG. And Loretta Lynch had ambitions of her own. We know this. Loretta Lynch was hoping, I would think, to be the next Attorney General or to remain as Attorney General under Hillary Clinton. At the same time, Hillary Clinton had a problem, which is that unlike Trump, who had supposedly some documents that were classified at his home at Mar-a-Lago, Hillary Clinton had thousands upon thousands of emails that were classified, maintained on her home server. And this was not how you do things. You're supposed to, if you're Secretary of State in the government, and have classified information to handle it appropriately. And to the extent that you're even allowed to disseminate things by email, it has to go through secure channels. You can't keep it on your server. And one of the things that is important to remember as we look at these revelations that Hillary Clinton campaign and Barack Obama administration were working together to discredit Trump with this made-up Russia collusion stuff. Hillary Clinton was, for an actual crime that was self-evident and established, getting a pass. FBI officials that were involved in this, and there's now whistleblowers too whose testimony has come out in this release by Grassley, that were concerned about Loretta Lynch's potential bias. One of the investigations, and this was all done through the Durham report, Durham investigation, but was all classified until now. There's a quote. McCabe, remember he's one of the bad actors in this, one of the FBI agents or deputies, at the FBI. McCabe added that he thought the Attorney General's reaction to the substance of the reports was odd, and that Anderson similarly told the OIG, the Office of Inspector General, that she found it a little bit weird that the Attorney General did not affirmatively disavow the contents of the reports. These are her reactions to intelligence reports, all having to do with Trump's supposed Russia collusion, which all were coming from the Clinton campaign. She was in on it, right? That's the issue, right? She was in on it. And the FBI was suspicious of her. But all of this was swept under the rug by Obama and later by Comey and the cabal that remained in place during the transition and into Trump's first term. And those people did not stop. They did not waste one waking moment fighting and obstructing Trump all the way through his term. This is one of the reasons why Trump now, after 4 years of hell between his two presidencies, is first order of business was throwing everybody out on their rear, cleaning house. All these firings in the State Department, all these people going, "Oh, this is so sad." These and the media saying, "Oh, these people are so valuable." Ditto at the CIA, right? Ditto at the NSA. These people were only valuable to the extent that they were helping the establishment fight against Trump. They were valuable obstructionists. And one of the most, to me, infuriating parts of this all is that we were paying for it through our tax dollars. These are all well-paid individuals. This is millions upon millions upon millions of dollars annually spent on payroll for people who weren't doing any real keep America safe work. The way they justified it is they were keeping America safe from Trump. Yet you and I, we went to the polls along with millions of our fellow Americans, and we elected him because we wanted to clean this mess up. And the swamp fought back. And they set it into motion. They set it into motion even before Election Day. Now, one of the things that they found here is that and it traces back to Obama, that he greenlit administrative levers to blunt FBI probes of the Clinton Foundation and private server emails. He protected Hillary. Quote, Barack Obama sanctioned the use of all administrative levers to remove possibly negative effects from the FBI investigation of cases related to the Clinton Foundation and the email correspondence in the State Department. Again, this happened after Loretta Lynch met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac there in June of 2016. And then we find out that Attorney General Lynch was feeding inside information to the Clinton campaign. The political director of the Hillary Clinton staff, Amanda Renteria, regularly receives information from Attorney General Loretta Lynch on the plans and intentions of the FBI. This while Hillary was the subject of a criminal investigation, one that should have seen her be charged. And instead, Comey got up there and says, well, bad things happened, and and this probably reaches a level of criminal wrongdoing, but we're not, it's the position of the FBI not to get involved to stay out of politics. Yet at that very moment, the FBI was fully engaged in politics. The Attorney General, who oversees the FBI, was reporting to the Clinton campaign. And the FBI was actively working to give, under the orders of Barack Obama, to give Hillary Clinton a pass. This whole thing is awful. It confirms the worst of our suspicions. Now, can Obama be indicted for any of this? Well, the question comes down to the privileges, right, that Obama would enjoy based on the recent Trump v. U.S. ruling. And it goes to, whether he was performing and acting in his core constitutional duties as president. The case has to be made that Obama was going outside of his role as president, and he was acting as a candidate or as a politician. That these were political acts. These were not official acts of a sitting president. I think the case can be made. Now, here are the defenses, right? This is what Obama would say. Obama would say, I genuinely believe that Trump was a threat. But the problem is that we now know that the intelligence reports here were telling Obama that Trump was not a threat. He did not have any basis other than what the Steele dossier said and some gossip to open this investigation or to order an investigation of Trump. And we also know that there was 2 days transpired from the moment he got intel denying Trump's collusion with Russia or any kind of interference from Russia. What was that, December 7th after the election? And then December 9th, holding a meeting in the Oval Office where suddenly the orders were given to open a full-scale investigation and push the Russia collusion hoax? Absolutely unreal. And it's more of a political act than it is. I don't see anything of that being, part of his core constitutional duties. So, this is all. That's what this is going to come down to. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, just real quick, is you remember January 6th, the whole we had the January 6th investigation, right? And then Jack Smith also opened up an indictment against Trump for the documents, right? This classified documents found in the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago in Trump's office, okay? And remember when we had the first photographs, and they came out pretty quickly after the raid on Mar-a-Lago, the photographs of the documents there on the ground. And and a lot of people reacted, "Oh my God, it's all classified. It's all classified." And it was in those folders. And okay, well, I'm getting to a point here. So it was all in those folders. And it turned out later that the FBI planted those folders, that they brought them, that they weren't there, that stuff a lot of it was already declassified. And so they made it look incriminating. What the FBI did there is a furtherance of the conspiracy that began in the summer of 2016. This is my point. That is an allegation that can be made. Two, first, let me say that helps with statute of limitations, because some of these acts are 5 years statute of limitations. So the way you get that extended is you allege it's a conspiracy that continued over time, and that there were subsequent, acts done that extended the time period, and thus extending the statute of limitations. And then the second thing is that happened in Florida. And I could see the Trump DOJ bringing this case, and it's going to be a big case because it's going to have multiple defendants, but bringing it in the Southern District of Florida, in essentially what is Miami. Well, that's a different jury pool, folks, than we would have up in, the District of Columbia. So, I'm just saying it wouldn't be a slam dunk because it's, a lot of these things occurred in D.C. The original, conspiracy was concocted in D.C., but any effort, we need to find any way to get this case out of the District of Columbia. And so does Obama get hauled in? I would not be surprised, based on the texts, the tweets that Trump is sending out, that there is, that they are not actively thinking about it. Trump is out for blood. And everybody I see out there that's commenting says, don't hold your breath, don't hold your breath. I don't know that. I'm not telling you it will happen. I just think it's more likely than not that Obama, at a minimum, gets arrested and charged. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Be back in a moment. By the way, we are not to the bottom of any of this yet. This is just scratching the surface. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Of course, today, big news. Chuck Grassley releasing the so-called Durham Annex. This would be the supporting evidence of the Durham report that was previously classified. Could not be released. And, shockingly, no one in the Biden administration sought to declassify any of this, even though Durham had wanted to do so. Well, we know why. The information here implicates Obama, implicates Hillary, and a slew of other top Democrats and even some Republicans in a smear campaign, in a setup on Donald Trump and his campaign, going back to the summer of 2016 in the midst of a contentious presidential election. Now, the other news, and this came out late yesterday, Fox News reported that Kash Patel digging through FBI headquarters, and I guess I kind of picture him and Bongino kind of going around. He got flashlights going down into the basement of the FBI building. I wonder what we have here, and does anybody have a key to this room? And kind of going through there and just seeing what they can find. And I guess Patel claims he found thousands of sensitive Trump-Russia probe documents inside burn bags. Now, the burn bag system, this is well known, is basically like if you have a shred pile for your bills or sensitive information, tax forms, that kind of thing. But it's even better than shredding. It's going to go into an incinerator. But because not everybody is you don't incinerate your own paper at the desk, right? There's some place to do that. You put it in a bag, and the bag gets locked or secured in some way, and then some trusted person will go and dispose of it. Well, apparently nobody did, and so it was in these burn bags just hanging out. They didn't get to it, is my point. And it's being described as a trove of sensitive documents related to the origins of the Trump-Russia probe. And it was, I guess, and it was stuff that is even greater detail than what we just saw released in the Grassley annex. Well, in the Durham Annex released by Grassley. Oh, people are asking, why didn't Durham declassify the annex himself? We can't. He couldn't have. He only an OCA could do that. This is Original Classification Authority. These are people who are designated by the president, the vice president, or agency heads, basically under an executive order. And the OCAs will take documents and classify them, find the appropriate classification level, and then and then also ensure that if anything is declassified, it doesn't reveal things like, for example, sources and methods, and embedded agents, double agents, that kind of thing. And but they'll also determine the classification, like if it's up to 25 years or whatever, time periods. But my point is, right, Durham was not an OCA. He did not have that authority. And by the time Durham was wrapping his investigation, the Biden administration was underway. So, I mean, that's what it is. Clinton, Podesta, a guy named Leonard Bernardo, Sullivan, they've all come out and called the memorandum contents ridiculous. Have you heard this? They're actually saying that some of these emails were created by the Russians? Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, if this case goes to trial in DC, is why I keep talking about venue being very important. If you take this case to DC and you show a jury in Washington, DC, an email where Hillary Clinton's top guy, who now, by the way, works for George Soros, going, hey, here's our plan. Here's how we're going to get Trump. Here's how we're going to just concoct and plan literally a blueprint for the Russian collusion hoax. You could show it in open court. And I'm convinced entirely that the jurors in DC will think that it's just more Russia collusion. America has been brainwashed. This is 9 years worth of programming. And so that doesn't go away. People don't want to believe that what they thought has turned out to be a complete and utter fraud. So I think that is what's going to be that's going to be the most interesting. This is why you can't, if you try the case in DC and you get DC jurors, they're 96% Democrats. It'd be very difficult, I think, to get any kind of conviction. By the way, Durham didn't get any convictions, and he only, what did he have, one or two, prosecutions, some low-level people. and the guy, the one main guy, walked. Right, the lawyer, he just walked. The jury in D.C. let him loose. There's an important question people are asking about Durham, by the way. Why didn't he only prosecute these low-level actors, relatively low-level actors? It's evident now that a lot more people were involved in this. People like Comey, people like Brennan, people like this Bernardo guy, going all the way up to Obama, Loretta Lynch. There are reasonable questions being asked whether or not Durham was part of being in on the fix. Now, you can't blame him for the lack of declassification. That's just not fair. But it does raise questions for me, whether or not he was able to, whether or not he would have been able to, on the basis of what I'm seeing now, at least attempt to charge other individuals. And I think that the answer is that it very well could be. Robbie, what's our time? I gotta tell you, I am. All right, we gotta run. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXN. See, I'm glad I asked you, Robbie. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., here on News Talk 840 KXNT. This hour of the program is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Now, a couple weeks ago, a story circulating on social media, and some publications carried it too, about the Czech Republic passing a law that made it illegal to positively discuss, advocate for, speak in glowing terms about communism. And a number of conservatives, even some people that I like and I respect, shared this story and commented on it that it was a positive thing. See, look at this. They get it in the Czech Republic. They're doing it the right way. They're not advocating for any of this leftism stuff. In fact, you can't even talk about it. I think this is a wrong and dangerous approach to take. When it comes to the freedom of expression, I'm really much more of an absolutist, I think, than the average Joe. And it's because I understand full well what will happen in society if you give the government the power to decide what is wrongthink. If the government has the authority to do, for example, what Joe Biden wanted, the Biden administration wanted to set up a ministry of truth to fight the dissemination of misinformation. And what do you think to the Biden people would be misinformation? This entire story that we discussed last hour about the Durham report, the annex getting declassified, having in it evidence that shows that Obama and Comey and Clinton, the campaign, colluded together to derail Donald Trump. That could be determined to be, fake news, misinformation, disinformation, could be outlawed if such authority is given to the state. Our founders wisely, saw that it was important for the freedom of speech to be ingrained in the Bill of Rights, to be literally the first amendment to our Constitution, foundational to the preservation of a free and just society. So while I understand, going back to the Czech government here briefly, before I talk to you about the disaster unfolding in the United Kingdom and in Australia and other countries, so-called Western democracies, where they are moving to something, I think, straight out of 1984, let me talk about the Czech Republic. I get it. I think their heart is in the right place. Communism was a destructive force. in my parents' country. We're all very well aware of it. But I mean, I want to defeat leftism. I want to defeat communism, socialism, democratic socialism, whatever you want to call it. I want to defeat all of that in a debate. I want to be able to openly debate the merits of any political ideology. One of the reasons why I am so terrified of Islam is that they solve this problem with threats of violence and death. You can't criticize the Prophet Muhammad. Hell, you can't even, draw him. You can't say that he married a 9-year-old. You do that, and they come after you with knives and bombs and guns. It's a very illiberal, that's what I'm getting at, illiberal system of government. It's much more than a religion. And in a lot of places where there are a lot of Islamists, like in Western Europe and France, are people literally afraid to speak out. Look at what happened to the cartoonists, the Charlie Hebdo magazine. Terrorists, Islamists stormed that magazine, killed everybody. That happened. And the effect, of course, is that the next guy that wants to draw a picture of the Prophet Muhammad is going to think twice about it. Now, that's Islam. But when the government does it, it's even worse. And let me tell you here what's going on. So the United Kingdom has this Online Safety Act that passed last year or the year before, and it's now finally coming into effect. And you basically, the sum and total of it is this. To do anything online, you need to be age verified. Now, how do you do an age verification? You have to identify yourself. You have to submit a passport, a national ID card. You have to send in a photograph of yourself. And now the government knows everything that you as an individual tied to your identity, your social security number, they have a record of everything you do, every site you click on, everything you write, you post, basically everything. I presume this would include questions that you ask AI. You put in a prompt into ChatGPT or Grok. And on some level, I have to think the way this is written would give the government authority to know what you're doing. That's the United Kingdom today, right now. It's unbelievable. The reaction of people, of course, is to get VPNs to go around this. These are basically virtual networks that kind of go around it so you can be more anonymous on the internet. I think in the last week or so, the use of new VPNs has spiked by like 14,000% or whatever it is, a huge amount of increase in VPN usage. It's gotten so bad, the government's come along and go, okay, well, maybe we're going to ban VPNs. The countries that ban VPNs. Think North Korea, right? Russia, okay? The most totalitarian countries in the world where we would all agree those are bad places to live. They do not respect human rights. Those are the countries that ban VPNs. The West now is going into full totalitarianism. And as I said before, the reason for this is simple. Keir Starmer in the UK, people like Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, right? They're all part of the same cabal. These are people who know that what they are selling is no longer as attractive to people as it once was. They know they are losing in the open marketplace of ideas. So the first thing they do is go shut down the marketplace. By the way, bringing this close to home, you see Pew Research came out with some polling. Did you see this about partisan swings from 2023 to 2025? You see about young people, again, these are people who are much more likely to be online and to share information. The numbers are astonishing. And here I'm just a couple of them here. 18 to 29 men. So this is 2 years coinciding roughly from when, for example, Twitter was purchased by Elon Musk, taken private, and liberalized in the small L sense, freedom restored to the platform for people to express themselves candidly and honestly without government interference. The swing for 18 to 29-year-old men, again, just in 2 short years, is plus 44 Republican. Unreal. For women of the same age group, plus 14. They swung in the Republican direction by 14 points. Men 30 to 49, that's my group, are plus 15. Women actually swung a little to the left in my age group. I'm not surprised. I know a lot of women who have gone a little crazy. And then, of course, it's offset, of course, by all the moms out there. Married women, if you take that subset, and they didn't have that in this particular survey. Married women who have kids, have actually gone more conservative. So it's the single women in that category that have swung a lot to the left. Men 50 to 64 plus 3 Republican, same women plus 1 Republican, and it's boomers 65 plus that have gone far to the left. Why is that? The reason is with the exception of my father and, a lot of people I know that are older are very active on X and social media and whatnot, but by and large, boomers still tune in to CNN and they read the Washington Post and they are well informed on the paper of record, read the New York Times. And these people have gotten lied to and propagandized, and they have actually become more liberal. And as much as it pains me, this is an age group that is not going to be around forever. And this new young upsurgence of youthful voters who will be politically engaged are shifting massively to the right. The Hillary Clintons, the Keir Starmers, the Barack Obamas, the Kamala Harrises, they see this. And their answer to it is, well, let's shut them up. This is what dictators do. Now, it has to be identified. It has to be called out the way Trump called it out to Keir Starmer when he met with him earlier in the week. And it has to be stopped. And we must be aware of this. Trust me. The next Democratic administration that somehow manages to come to power in this country is going to try this. Biden already did. So, let's watch out. I'll unpackage this for you here when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Well, of course, it's all about the kids. It's all about safety. Online safety, that's what it's being packaged as. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 KXNT. Folks, I know these totalitarians like the back of my hand. I know exactly how they operate. I get it. I understand it. My childhood was spent listening to my parents explain what it was like growing up in Stalin's Eastern Europe. It wasn't good. And this was before a tremendous amount of technology was available to be able to control the population. If you want to see what Stalin or what Erich Honecker in Germany would be able to do with modern technology, look at China. China has something called the social credit system. Now, what is this? I've been following this from the very beginning, and I'm not going to go into my whole stories about all the Chinese people I've talked to over the years of either denied it or complained about it, but they all, I can tell you, live in fear, even those that are in the US, to criticize the government, because the Chinese government has an AI back, before even AI was on your radar. The Chinese had early forms of AI, and this is how the system works. The Chinese know exactly what your internet address, IP address is. They know who you are, because in order to get that address, you have to identify yourself with your state ID. They have your citizen ID number. They know who you are and what you do. They track you because you carry around your little phone with you with the GPS tracking on. They track you. They know who you email. They know who you text. They know what you email and what you text. They know who you spend time with, whether it was a 1-minute contact or a 3-hour sit-down conversation in the home. I wouldn't be surprised if smartphones in China were uploading entire conversations overheard, people sitting and talking. Go back to 1984, right? Remember the TV that he had on the wall, right? The TV didn't just broadcast, it also spied on people in their homes. They couldn't speak openly. Now, when my dad was a kid, right? My mom was young. The police spied on you. They'd have to sneak into your apartment when you're gone, out of town or at work, and drill a hole in the ceiling and plant a bug and put a transmitter on it. A lot of work. But the way the Chinese do it now, I mean, they literally know everything about you. Now, the social credit score, it's kind of like your FICA, right? It's similar because they give you a score based on your political reliability. Did you write something online that was critical of the government? Minus 10 points. Did you meet for longer than a second in passing a person who is politically undesirable? An activist, for example, a Falun Gong member, someone who previously has been critical of the government, somebody with an alarmingly low social credit score. Boom, minus 20 points. Did you perhaps have a conversation where you spoke glowingly of the US government, of Donald Trump? Did you have a conversation expressing interest that Taiwan remain an independent country? All these things deduct points. And what is the social credit score? Kind of like a FICA, but even worse. If your score gets too low, you can't get a mortgage. You can't rent an apartment. You can't travel by airplane or travel on a high-speed train. You lose the perks of living in a developed society. Instead of going on the bullet train to visit your parents, 300 miles away, you're going for hours, stop to stop, 45 miles an hour. That's what you get for speaking out against the government. You're cut off. And I'm telling you, this is where the United Kingdom, the UK, is headed with this new system. And it's not about protecting the kids. By the way, here's the BBC saying, don't get a VPN, don't get a VPN. We want kids to be safe. This is the biggest load of garbage on the planet.
For everybody who's out there thinking of using VPNs, let me just say to you directly, verifying your age keeps a child safe. Keeps children safe in our country. So let's just not try and find a way around. Just prove your age, make the internet safer for children, make it a better experience for everyone. That's surely what we should aspire to in this country.
You know what I love? I love that the British government and the British media is finally concerned with child safety, Robbie. These are the people that stood by. Hell, these are the people that arrested Tommy Robinson for speaking out about the Rotherham sex scandal, where gangs of Muslim men imported from the third world garbage places, okay, like Pakistan and Syria, came to the UK, and in this one place, although it happens all around the country, ran grooming gangs, and the police didn't do anything about it. Not only did the police not do anything about it, it's now being reported, this is news yesterday, that the police, there were some police that were engaged in it and participated in it. And when parents complained, when parents brought police reports, the parents were arrested. And when guys like Tommy Robinson spoke out about it, he was arrested for causing offense. He was put into solitary confinement, spent months and months and months in prison. This is the country that, well, I mean, you heard it from Keir Starmer when he met with Trump earlier in the week. Whoa, we have freedom of speech. We have freedom of speech. You're on your way, Mr. Starmer. Prime Minister, with all due respect, you're on your way to becoming no better than China. That's where this is headed. And the reason they're doing it, and this is the most important point, the reason they're doing it is because they're losing. They know they're in the wrong. They've completely messed up, and they're shoving their new world order, their globalist open border bullcrap down our throats. The same way that Obama and Biden and the deep state and this uniparty nasty muck mess that we despise in this country, and we've now voted out, I think, 3 times, if you count the 2020 election, these people know the only way that they can pull one over on us is if they cheat. And this is one of the tools by which they do that. Cannot let them get away with this at all. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, behind the What's Right microphone. So Emil Bove gets appointed, passed through the Senate in a, kind of a tight vote. Normally, he would not have gotten the nomination or the confirmation, but of course, the Democrats, once upon a time, under the illustrious Harry Reid, did away with the filibuster. So Bove gets in. It's a small procedural thing. That's not where I'm going with this. My point is that Cory Booker, the New Jersey senator, goes on and gives an absolute crazy rant. I'm going to play this rant here. Because when I talk about all this censorship, when I talk about all this, our own attempt here under Biden to start a ministry of truth, to fight disinformation, and I'm telling you, the left is doing it because they're losing. I want to tell you, instead of look at this. I'll play the video. This is Cory Booker. This is the state of the Democratic Party. This is what they're doing. This is all they've got. Anger, piss and vinegar, and I don't know, a quasi-seizure.
The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call. I see law firms bending a knee to this president, not caring about the larger principles, that those free speech rights, that you could take on any client. Why are you bending the knee? I see universities that should be bastions of free speech bending at the knee to this president. I see businesses taking late-night talk show hosts off the air because they dare to insult a president. I see people who want mergers suddenly think that they have to pay tribute to this president. And what are the very people here elected to defend the Constitution of the United States saying, oh, well, today, let's look the other way and pass some resources that won't go to Connecticut, that won't go to Illinois, that won't go to New York, that will go to the states he likes. That is complicity with an authoritarian leader who is trashing our Constitution. It's time for Democrats to have a backbone. It's time for us to fight. It's time for us to draw lines. And when it comes to the safety of my state being denied these grants, That's why I'm standing here. Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right. And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me, because there's too much on the line right now in America.
Wait, stop it. Did he just say what's right? That's a trademark violation. We got to send Mr. Booker a notice. Well, now it's the speech and debate clause. He's on the floor of the Senate. He's free and clear. Now, I know there's some Democrats watching this going, yeah. What did he actually say, Robbie? There is no substance. It's all just anger and just performance art. Well, that's all it is. And it's, what did you call it, Robbie? Thespiocracy? These are the theater kids. I think Scott Adams called them the theater. These are the theater kids that suddenly got themselves into the Congress of the United States and the Senate and the House. People like Cory Booker, people like Rashida Tlaib, or maybe AOC, to name a few. And what they do is they perform. But they're not serious people, and they don't have serious ideas. And this is the problem. For example, if you listen to Keir Starmer in the UK, he doesn't have any interesting ideas. He wants an open border. He wants the criminals out on the street. He wants as many Islamists in the country. He wants to create as hostile of an environment for British citizens as he possibly can. Well, I think sum in total, that's the Democratic Party. It was almost as if for 4 years under Joe Biden, the entire intent of the Biden administration was to make your and my lives miserable. If you're an ordinary taxpayer, if you are just a good person, kids and a mortgage and, followed the rules and paid your taxes and did everything, right or as right as you possibly could, the government was there to screw you in every imaginable way possible. Now, if you were a terrorist or you were Trenderegua or you're just the Maryland man that's crossing the border, Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and you're doing a little light human trafficking, there's just 12 people in the car, it's no big deal. It's not like they were dismembered or anything. Well, then you gotta pass. Hell, you got an EBT card. You got it taken care of. And even if we're not talking about illegals, if we're talking about Americans, there is a big thing right now maybe we'll play some of these clips as we develop the story, but I'm just telling you that social media right now, particularly X, is awash with videos of young Americans being enraged by the level of abuse in the welfare system. People going, and receipts of this and chat forums, people finding ways to use EBT cards on Carnival cruises, buying alcohol, going on cruises, vacations. Working young Americans, tax-paying young Americans can't afford housing, let alone vacations. And we have a segment of our society catered to by the Democratic Party that is abusing the system and bragging about it on social media. Now, a lot of these people are black. Sam, why does that matter? Well, wait a minute. Let me finish my thought. It doesn't matter. But it matters in the context of this new law coming out of the United Kingdom. You, under this law, could have the police show up and arrest you if you went online and pointed out that this particular person is abusing the welfare system. Because the police would say that you are causing offense based on race. And you would say, I'm criticizing them being on welfare. And the police would say, well, no, Sam, that's not how it works. You are criticizing a person of color. You're accusing them of milking the system, of abusing the system. There is a stereotype involved with that, naughty, naughty. And off in cuffs you go. Your life is disrupted. You're not showing up for work the next morning. You're paying fines. I don't know that you do hard time, but there is enough disruption to your life that you're not easily coming back from it. You could lose your job. You could lose your security. You lose everything, essentially. I guess I'm just trying to explain to you how this goes. I've been very consistent, I think, from the beginning. And even though Elon Musk is getting a little weird with some of the stuff he's saying about Trump, and I don't like it, we have to, as Trump supporters, we have to be extremely grateful to Musk for giving us freedom on Twitter, on X, even if you personally don't use it. Although, shame on you for not using it. You should be on there and you should follow me at What's Right Sam. Shameless plug. But even if you don't use it, this is where great investigative journalists, independent journalists, conservatives have gone and they have exposed the worst of the worst abuses, egregious constitutional violations, political malfeasance, and other bad acts of our political opponents. And these political opponents, instead of cleaning up how they do things, improve who they are, and come up with a political platform that's appealing to 51% of the population or more, would rather find ways of shutting that down. If you talk to those boomer Democrats that are in the survey that have shifted leftward over the last 2 years, who watch a lot of mainstream media, well, you think the mainstream media is out there advertising how good social media is? Probably not, because it's obviously an economic threat, a competitive threat to them and their business model. These people are convinced, it's not you, I understand that, but a lot of people out there convinced that social media is bad. It's not all good, I get that, right? And it was particularly not all good when social media did the bidding of the Biden administration and allowed people inside the executive branch of government to target Americans for cancellation, their posts for removal, based on the subject matter of their speech. Basic First Amendment violation. It's just a lot of food for thought, isn't it? I tell you, one of my big takeaways from what I'm seeing this week and how much the Brits are fighting, the Australians too, they're doing it too, is that we're winning. Our movement is winning. We are persuading people. We are moving hearts and minds over to our side. And these are the death throes of the regimes. I'm not even talking about Iran. I'm talking about this bloated, nasty, globalist, open border, disgusting George Soros, blob that has taken over and almost suffocated Western civilization. I hope we're witnessing a comeback. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, the What's Right Show, is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Yeah, the globalists are doing the same thing in Australia, too. Another country that was once a free place to live, no longer so. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, a glimpse of what America would look like if the left had its way, if they could shred the Constitution. They would do this quite easily. I believe the next Obama-like Democrat president will stack the Supreme Court, add justices who will, in turn, rule that the First Amendment is a lot more squishy than it was, than as it's presently interpreted. So it could happen here. We're not immune from this. This is why we have to fight like hell. We can't just rely on being nice as Republicans, and then when the Democrats get in charge, let them have their way with us. On the Australian Senate floor, Senator Malcolm Roberts talked about this age verification software that extends to Google and other sites. Again, this is a cautionary tale of what could happen here. Listen to this.
The code is designed to regulate the search industry to stop children accessing harmful material, including online pornography and material showing high-impact violence or self-harm. That's a worthy cause, yet with dangerous implications. To achieve this, every search engine must include robust age verification. In practice, this brings search engines and similar sites under the purview of the Identity Verification Services Act and the Social Media Minimum Age Bill. Legislation that was passed for social media and is now being extended to internet search without further reference to Parliament or any justification for doing so. Google or Bing search, as well as sites like TinEye, stock photo sites, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble and bizarrely Google Maps and Apple Maps will now require proof of age for every user.
It's not just proof of age. What are you proving if you've got your age? You're proving your identity. They want to know who's using Google Maps. This is not an Alex Jones conspiracy, folks. This is just totalitarianism happening in front of our very eyes. And by the way, I understand keeping your kids safe. And I do all sorts of things to protect what my kids can see on their devices. And by the way, we look at our kids' devices and do all this stuff and look at deleted history and deleted look, you have to be active as a parent to keep your kids safe. But do I want the government looking through the camera at my child and verifying that it's them on the computer and that they're of age to access a certain site? Do I want the government in my house? I don't think so. I don't think you do either. So, imagine this, right? He says, he talks about the facial scanning. The facial scanning, this is gross.
These extreme measures have a point to them. Every user of any platform that disseminates accurate information the government doesn't like can now be regulated and material taken down in the name of keeping us safe. Censorship. Any link, anywhere in the world. What a power to have. How long before any post critical of the government gets taken down as dangerous and the person gets a police visit, which is happening right now in the United Kingdom under very similar laws.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not age verification. It's not protecting the kids. It's protecting the government. And all this other stuff is just fluff, right? Now, why are we talking about Australia? Because, again, this is what would happen here if we didn't have the First Amendment, if Trump wasn't president. If Kamala had won, her handlers, the people behind the Democrats, would effect a plan to rid us of this. I'm convinced of it. We have to be vigilant in protecting our great country, our free country. And we should allow Democrats to speak. We should allow communists to speak. We should allow Nazis to speak. I will die on this hill. Once upon a time, the ACLU, before it got co-opted into basically an extension of the totalitarian government organization, used to go out and argue on behalf of really despicable people to spew their hate because it was protected by the First Amendment. There's very famous examples of young, idealistic Jewish lawyers working for the ACLU representing Nazis. That happened. That's what the liberal wing of our country used to be about. But now the left has become completely the other way. They're not liberal, small l. They're totalitarian. They don't believe in freedoms. They believe in control. And an awakening that a lot of us had was during COVID. You know, when I was mentioning those age numbers and people moving left or right, according to Pew, and basically young people have all moved radically, male and female, radically over to the right in the U.S. And I brought up the women, right? 35 to 50 or whatever, the age band of women that have moved a little to the left. And I said, but except for moms. And a lot of moms during COVID saw the light. Were incensed by the government controls put on them, their families, and their kids. And it's exactly the cautionary tale from COVID that we need to remember. Here's this same Australian senator, conservative senator, bravely reminding the Australian Senate, as they're debating this law, about what was once upon a time considered harmful material that now the government wants more power to shut down.
A search provider must engage annually with safety and communication organisations such as civil society groups, public interest groups and representatives of marginalised communities and academics to inform their measures. A search engine provider knows what child exploitation and violent material looks like. They don't need academics to tell them. This provision provides a clear power for the e-safety commissar to declare a social issue as harmful to children. If not, what's it doing here? This code is designed to formalise the process of taking down links to any messaging which the e-safety commissar deems wrongthink under the guise of that information being harmful, as they did during COVID, often for material that was later shown to be factual.
So, it's exactly right. Once upon a time, remember COVID, right? Remember how that used to play. This is exactly what happened. The safety commissar is going to decide, just as they did during COVID, what is harmful and what isn't. And that's, that is, that's the reality of it. So, folks, we're making headway. We're making progress. This is all good. We will get there. And I think they're on the run. And I think the more that they try to tamp down on society, on freedom, the more likely the patriots will rise up. The way the patriots rose up here and in November elected Donald J. Trump as president. I pray this trend continues. I think it is. I think we're going to be okay. Reach me by email. Give me your thoughts. sam@whatsrightshow.com, sam@whatsrightshow.com, or DM me or tweet at me at whatsrightsam on X, formerly known as Twitter. All right, folks, gotta run. I'll see you tomorrow, Friday tomorrow. The week is almost over. I'll see you then.